Texas didn't look too good offensively. The struggles continue for Arch Manning. Arch Manning was even booed by his home crowd there in Austin. He finished a very unimpressive 11 of 25, 114 yards, 1 touchdown. Started the game okay. He was, let's see here, 4 of 5 passing. Problem is he missed his next 10 passes. They were 1 of 9 on third downs. 1 of 9 on third downs. Manning missed a guy, Parker Livingstone, on a potential touchdown on a post route, but Arch Manning overthrew him. Guys, this isn't a heat check necessarily on Arch Manning because he's Arch Manning. They'll keep him at the starting spot. And as this is I don't know, guys. As Steve Sarkisian said after the game, I told Arch before the season, you've never really been a QB until they boo you. He got booed in the first half. Now he can start playing. Well, I would argue he's had 2 years to prepare for this moment, and he doesn't look all that sharp. Is this an Arch Manning issue, or is this a Steve Sarkisian issue with trying to get his quarterback feeling comfortable in the offense?
Well, I think it's an everything issue, frankly. And by the way, Steve Sarkisian, that is not a saying. Nobody says you're not a real quarterback until you get booed. But I think that you look around the entire offense, and I want to be clear about this. Arch Manning has been extremely bad. Extremely bad. He has not done the stuff that you need to do to be a successful quarterback in college football. But also, I feel like you almost start looking around the rest of the field, and there's so many structural issues with this Texas team right now on offense. We've talked about the wide receivers. Obviously, Emmett Mosley has been a transfer who's been hurt for a while, although Parker Livingston has come in and played well. But we haven't gotten what we've needed necessarily from Ryan Wingo. I think that the depth of that room has not been very good. Obviously, DeAndre Moore also dealing with injuries. So, the targets haven't been great in the first place. I think that probably the more damning thing is actually the state of the running game. In that game against UTEP, CJ Baxter got hurt, and that means that their top 2 running backs are out, with Trey Wisner also not in the lineup. And this Steve Sarkisian offense is really dependent on the run game working. I think that when you look at some of the struggles they had going from 23 to 24, a lot of them came down to being worse running the ball. And the other piece that I'll say too is that they had a lot of turnover on the offensive line, and I don't think that they've done as good a job as we expected of restocking there. I think the unit's been okay, especially in pass protection, but their run blocking, which has kind of been a theme under Kyle Flood, has just been okay, not great. So yes, Arch has been terrible. Like 100% totally terrible. And if you had a better quarterback back there, he could maybe work through some of these issues. But this is ultimately, to me at least, Texas missing on so many different position groups and not having depth and experience in so many spots that I think that they'd have problems even if they did have good quarterback play there.
My counterpoint, but it's UTEP.
Yes. And that's the Arch Manning piece for sure. That's the you're not hitting open guys thing for sure. But I think that this is, again, compounding levels of whiffs over the past couple of years and ultimately sending guys to the NFL and not restocking the way that you need to.
I'm not confident at all in the backups at Texas at quarterback. Having said that, if he wasn't Arch Manning, Chris Hummer, would people be saying he should be benched?
Well, I mean, as person that knows a lot of Texas fans, there's some people saying Arch Manning should be benched anyway. And it's an interesting point, right? If y'all remember the Georgia game last year, I was at that game, and I was also at the game yesterday against UTEP.
Oh, you were throwing the trash on the field. That's who that was.
Yeah. Well,
wait, so it's a Chris Hummer problem. It's up in the press box. If the Georgia and UTEP games are the ones where he's collapsing.
Well, honestly, given my history attending Texas sporting events, probably not wrong. I was there. Well, actually, this is a position, right?
On Ubers there. Go ahead. I like this.
Well, last year, Steve Sarkisian did bench Quinn Ewers against Georgia. When Quinn, I believe, started that game, it was 7 for 14 with 14 yards. And Arch Manning was worse on Saturday against UTEP. He had 10 straight incompletions. The boos were legitimate. He looked terrible. He looked a little lost, to be frank. And I think if you listen to his post-game comments and listen to Steve Sarkisian's comments, like they point at being a mental thing. I asked a question to a UTEP DB who had an interception of Arch Manning after the game, and I was like, "Are you surprised he threw that?" And he just kind of laughed. Like he gave the political answer after that, but like it was a bad throw, and like it's just not a throw a quarterback would usually make into traffic. But I think it's important to mention, like I just said a second ago, like I've been there for some bad Texas moments. My first year as a student at Texas was 2010. That was a year Texas had a lot of hype coming out of the national championship game. Garrett Gilbert was the next guy up after Colt McCoy. And Garrett Gilbert was awful. And I think a lot of that had to do with the pressure on him and just kind of like having a little bit of a mental yip. He went on to have a really good career at SMU, played in the NFL, but like he had to get away from the pressure at Texas to be that guy. And I'm not saying that's going to be Arch Manning. I think Arch Manning is ultimately going to be fine. But like I heard the name Garrett Gilbert come up in the press box a couple times for longtime beat writers, guys that have been around this program for a long time. And that's not a good sign if you're Texas. Like Arch is clearly going through it mentally, and it's up to him to kind of figure out a way to claw out of this hole because there's no shoulder injury. There's no real like created reason for him to struggle. Like he's just.
But he winces. His face makes movements.
And this is the thing, though, is that Steve Sarkisian got mad at people asking about that. It's because, frankly, reporters are trying to find an excuse for why this is so bad. Like they want an explanation because it's just incomprehensible at this point. And, you know, I wrote a column over at CBS Sports yesterday, and this isn't just about yesterday or Arch Manning, but like I do wonder.
I'm interested in hearing your reasoning for this on Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah, so look, I wrote yesterday at CBS Sports that I think that it's time for Texas to hire a real play calling offensive coordinator. And you look around the elite programs in the sport right now, and the most recently being Ryan Day at Ohio State. Nobody really calls plays anymore. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, because the demands of being a head coach are so great at this point and just managing things. I know, Brendan, I cited your conversation with Gus Malzahn after he upset Alabama. And like, he admitted it. It's like, you don't understand the amount of ability that you have to go and review things and sit with the quarterback and learn and prepare for the next drive, compared to when you're a head coach and you're also involved with the defense, right? It is a different kind of mindset. But even more than just the actual calling of plays itself, it's also having somebody who is totally responsible for the offense, that's their only and primary job. Now, of course, the Texas has two co-offensive coordinators, offensive line coach Kyle Flood and quarterbacks coach AJ Milwee, but it's also not their offense. Nobody thinks it's their offense. It's Steve Sarkisian's offense. And I think that the magic that came last year with Chip Kelly coming into Ohio State really sticks with me, because it's not just the fact that some other guy is saying, you know, run duo instead of dive. Like that's not really the point. It's that he also came in with a very different mindset and philosophy when it came to the running game than what Ryan Day had. And Ryan Day is one of the best pass game schemers in the sport of football. And when you combine those two things, it created one of the best offenses that we've seen of the past couple years in college football. So it's not even just, we need to get Steve Sarkisian out of the offense. It's, man, does it make sense to bring somebody else in who can be additive to that offense?
All right, let's move on, guys, here, if we could, unless Talty had a good point you wanted to add.
Well, I'll make it 20 seconds here. Everything Sean just said, you could say the same for Florida and Billy Napier and how
yes.
against LSU.